Hello everyone. Today's class will explain the drawing of partial reverse yarn adding pattern raya. That is, only a part of the cloth is reverse yarn adding pattern. Other positions are just ordinary single-sided knitting. Like this pattern, on the front side of the fabric, because the main and sub yarn feeder to reverse, present the pattern of the feet on the front of the cloth. The sides are ordinary single-sided. When knitting this partial raya pattern, we need to pay attention to the following. In the middle of the pattern, although this part is the same color as the outside, but it is only one yarn feeder for knitting in the color 1 area outside, and the middle part must use 2 yarn feeders to make the raya pattern. Because the pattern on the left and right sides use 2 yarn feeders to make raya. If only one yarn feeder is used in the middle part, then another yarn feeder will pull the float from left to right. The same is for the finger joints of the feet here, which need to be drawn with raya pattern. That is, the main yarn is the yarn feeder on the side of. The sub yarn uses the yarn feeder of the foot. If a pattern like this has 2 or more partial raya, because the middle is single-sided, different yarn feeders need to be used for partial reverse yarn adding patterns in different areas. Here's how to draw this pattern. Take this flower as an example today. The first step is to create a new canvas. On the pattern layer, export a simple pattern from the shape, or the pattern of the front or the back. The second step is to draw the intarsia layer. First, copy the pattern part in the pattern layer to the intarsia layer. Draw the yarn feeder knitting area on the intarsia layer, with color 3 as the background. The pattern of flowers is copied from this pattern. You can also import images downloaded from the internet. Paste. Change color. Colors 1 and 0 are changed to 3 yarn feeder for knitting. Let's initially plan the yarn feeder area. This is what we want the cloth to look like in the end. Next, we need to distinguish between the raya part and the ordinary single-sided part. That is what I just said. Although the center and the periphery of the pattern are the same color as the cloth background, but the number of knitting yarn feeder is different. That is, the color 3 area in the middle part is to be made of raya patterns with 2 yarn feeders. Like this pattern, the line between the knitting area of 1 and 2 yarn feeders is not straight. There will be many floating lines. Therefore, we usually trim the edge of the partial raya pattern to be square or smooth, because the number of knitted yarn feeders is different. Therefore, the color 3 area here and outside should be distinguished. This is the second step to draw the intarsia layer. Step 3. Set the knitting form. Set intarsia, normal yarn feeder on function line 216. Yarn nozzle assembly system. The fourth step is to set the yarn feeder. In the yarn settings, on the first page, click Auto. Then make adjustments based on this. There is only one yarn feeder for knitting in the color 3 area. The color 5 area is to be knitted by number 5 yarn feeder with number 3 yarn feeder. The color 13 area is to be knitted by number 3 with number 5 yarn feeders. In this way, the partial raya pattern is drawn. Compile. When compiling, select the ADF self-running model. Edit. Number 5 yarn feeder is brought in from the left, and the floating line is relatively long. It is recommended to use the right yarn feeder to knit the pattern on the right. This position is knitting by number 3 yarn feeder with number 5. The cloth presents the yarn color of the number 3 yarn feeder. This is number 5 yarn feeder with number 3. The cloth presents the yarn color of the number 5 yarn feeder. This is the pattern with 1 partial raya. How to draw if you want 2 or more partial raya. Copy and paste. Change color. Note, the yarn feeder in different partial raya areas should be distinguished. For the pattern on the right, try to use the yarn feeder on the right. Yarn settings. Auto 1. Then reset the yarn feeder. Color 2 area is number 3 yarn feeder with number 4 yarn feeder. Only number 3 yarn feeder in the color 3 area. Color 4 area is no 4 is no 3 yarn feeder. Color 13 area is number 3 with number 15 yarn feeder. Color 15 area is number 15 with number 3 yarn feeder. Compile. Let's look at the flowers on the left first. Only 3. 3 with 4. 4 with 3. 3 with 15. 15 with 3. After knitting with the yarn feeder on the right, the floating line is shorter. This is the painting method of partial reverse yarn adding pattern. Thank you.